So I have to go into part two. I'm just going to roll right into part two. From the Buddhist side, ascensions of civilizations, Buddhites, are natural. They happen, and it's been happening for a while. We've had the chemical and you know potential to make higher civilizations for at least 1 billion years. It takes a couple of generations of galaxies. It takes a couple of generations of stars to come up with the real heavy metals. I don't know. We could have had uh and all this it, how long has there been complicated life in the cosmos? There's been civilizations for a long time. A lot of them were able to reach higher understanding in terms of dimensions of spirit energy. But the whole design of the cosmos from Jehovah's perspective uh, was taking longer for all these perspectives we're handling now to where he can actually, and it's a part of the material world that wasn't part of the one mind that the Buddhist envisioned. There's a missing element both in the pure materialite explanation. Yeah, where'd all this energy come from? And there's another missing element in the Buddhite explanation that gives you the one mind, but how do you get to the material world and material plane? And so those are and then you combine those two, and you have another paradox that doesn't make sense. A one mind that suddenly decides it's bored and it's gonna make a material plane. So you have the shorthand of a creation by an individual. In both cases, in one case it's Jehovah, he's a masculine entity. In the other case, it's a kind of amorphous Buddhite, neither this nor that. It encompasses all of us, and it's not quite all there. And those two sides point fingers at each other. Those two spirit schools point fingers at each other. Because the Buddhite one mind thing says, where do you get off being one Jehovah type, blowhard masculine, pulling off maneuvers in the material world? Well, that's because he's the daddy of it. You got to check. I'm not going to get into my vision, but it's close to the Gnostic one. Sophia comes first. It's a gathering of her energies, and there's a three-sided paradoxical structure, and I've gone into all that. And it's not about that. It's about the fact that the Christians feel it because it's real. But when they're not going to help make the material plane any better, they should, because it's in the Bible. I think there's a misreading of the Bible by Christians that just want to keep their nose clean so they can go to heaven. That's not what's in the Bible. You can go to heaven now. Heaven's already cool. You can just go. Bye. But if we're trying to bring the whole planet, what does that mean? Heaven on earth could be this planet. But heaven on earth means the material plane is no longer is going to be as difficult because we understand it finally more. And it means involving the fact that science, the material, we can prove that spirit is real. There's so many near death experiences that people come back, but there's also the Tibetans have mastery over death. Nothing like the way Christ pulled off resurrection. And there's a lot of evidence that is real. Okay? There's Shroud of Turin, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, even if you are a skeptic. Starting with the fact all of the apostles chose death rather than give up what they saw. They must have seen something real. You don't just take and it wasn't pleasant deaths either. I mean, all the way through, like 300 years later, people still throw themselves at lions and all that. But the Tibetans also talk about rainbow death meditation, and they understand certain actual, and then quantum entanglement almost explains our entangled fates, and how if you get into a flow, things are starting to be magical. But that doesn't mean that there aren't guardian angels and other spirit posses hooking you up for real. It's like a multi-layered intentionality thing going on at the primal level of intentionality where physics holds together. There must be kind of a sensuous aspect where the molecules arrange in their most, you know, elegant fashion because the source energy is being there-ness. This is starting to be something science can prove, and it's what the Buddhites believe. But the Jehovites don't get that because it's too complicated to explain. And so Jehovah is the masculine element that triggered that jumped into Sophia's space. He was the first masculine to reach Sophia in the context of some of her energies created more ripples and other entities came out of it. And if you think of that the way Bernardo Kastrop almost got to this, he was the one where it got to the even a three-sidedness about the one mind, and then deciding we need a material plane to really understand what's going on. It's like, yeah, you think who's thinking that way that early with nothing there to think? Come on, even from a philosophical. See, I'm holding this back because I don't want to get into all these philosophical back and forth with these. We've studied 50 books about other philosophers, and I've just had a couple of visions and figured this. If you have a one mind, even if it's a conscious being, it doesn't do anything if it doesn't differentiate. That's why you can't overcome ego. Just ego is something you have to flow with, not overcome. That's if you just want to leave the material world, go back to nirvana into the well. Yeah, you can still be there, even though you're looking at it from a perspective, but now you don't want to acknowledge that perspective. Hey, you still had the ego need to not be in pain. So there are fallacies, and if you just take the Buddhite, there's obvious fallacies if you just take the materialite. Where did it come from? What does it mean? And you know, so you can be a cold-hearted scientist, but it's not a happy place. Most people get to a semblance of a spirit perspective just from their emotional and subjective lives. And then the Jehovite side says it's all about beings. It's all about us. It's about me, Jehovah. And so, but he doesn't mention Sophia and all the rest of it because it'll make it way complicated. But he ended up being the trigger that caused the material plane. And now he was sort of an overseer of it. She was in a more receptive and turned back inward, slightly older. He was in a different city. To hell, you got to check my vision. But you know, the Gnostics have it right almost, except they ascribe ulterior motives. That came from where? Where do these ulterior motives come from? And yeah, Sophia being the first, but and it's not an intention. All right, I'm getting all tangled up in all that. The thing is, it is possible, and I'm saying it is real because you are seeing biblical prophecies, and you're seeing things. Oh, here's the real proof of it: how crazy and ugly things are that seem completely intractable. That's exactly what the last. If you're going to be a Jehovah and you're going to try to help solve the material plane, you go to where that, and you, or maybe you conjure a place that all of the things that haven't been solved, like the greed that comes along with uh, the material plane being difficult and people not sharing properly and other aspects, and it's an evolution of consciousness and interaction and design of body and all other kind of things. And the storyline is from the Buddhite, we're just another. And it might, who knows what's actually happening? That's another reason to get it done on the ground, kids. Both spirit schools are like something magical is going to save us. I'm saying you put them all together, and the magical thing that's going to save us is our own insights into how we rearrange our economics, how we get back to the joy of music, dancing, and interaction, and food and people. We are in a place where we can't even stand each other because everybody's so caught up in all this screen time. By the way, people want to say it's virtual. The whole thing is conjured up from a computer or some like high. Come on, that's the nerdiest thing in the world. You're not out in the real world to be able to say that. The level of texture and intricacies of dimensions that are perceptible in the reality of the real cosmos is way beyond anything that what am I, you know, I'm not using the real word virtual. That they that yeah, this whole thing is like a what have you. Some words escape me. That stupid one, especially. This is real. You are real. Things count, and we're at a place where they really count. And Most people are used to, yeah, whatever, and then go back to work and yeah, the same. Yeah, that's going to start breaking down. But there's a chance to start changing it consciously, and you get inspired by the fact that it does mean something. It isn't postmodern if it's just the materialite has no mythology besides postmodern, which means it could be anything. That's where you're getting all this extreme. You can be whatever you want. Yeah, no, yes, and no. Actually, if you want the quick version of who you are, you have energies coming in from your heart. This is where you're centered and it's emotional, it's more feminine. And then you have a perspective where you can see things. And this is kind of your decider Jehovah style. This is maybe your Christ that feels all the pain. And then you have like a Holy Ghost, let's say, intuition, which where is that? That's everything else out there. Maybe your subconscious figuring it out, or maybe real spirit posses. Maybe, maybe Jehovah's a big time player, huh? Who called out different things. If you see it from that angle, what a bank shot. And there's always karmic blowback. All the issues right now with Israel and are they the demon or are they the saviors? Yeah, there's karmic blowback when you intervene. That's why another reason Jehovah is not going to do this on every planet. And the whole way that they actually allow everyone to just forget everything, man. Connect with your heart through Christ. That's a brilliant move, I want to say, Jehovah. Who are you, Mikey? I got here 36,000 years ago. We were called over. It's like, hey, but you guys got some skills. Yeah, we're artists and musicians. Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying. So things are narrowing down to where we're getting stuff that needs to happen on the ground. And a lot of what I'm talking about is meaningless, except for where I was just about to get to the personal. You try to just be loose. You can be a charioteer with three horses where you're behind your decider. You're watching all of your like, oh my God, we need to stay on schedule. Your body's telling you things. I'm letting mine just stretch, try to heal my own carpal tunnel. And then you have your intuition telling you to go places and do things. That's kind of a joke from Talking Heads. But for real, says, I think I should probably, why do I have a bug about this or that? Those are intuitions. But then you've got your middle mind, which is your decider, and that's where everything's getting played. Everybody's getting played that they want more cookies because and manipulated, if you want to say. But it's like all of these perverse incentives that it's a rivalrous dynamics. Where's our community connections? They've all gone the way of profiteering off of every little knick-knacky relationships. So to bring it back is tricky. But if you understand that the whole thing is love, man, Christ made it simple. Love your neighbor. And love your God, even though if you don't understand what that is or means. It means, if you want to just be simple, God means that the whole cosmos is benevolent and also intelligent and helping you out. Trying, if you stop being so mean and mean and fearful and pointing at what you don't know. A lot of what didn't go into the Bible is don't point fingers at what you don't know. Well, you don't want to say that because you know what's interesting there? I've been going to Bible, just catching up on it because I thought I more or less understood it, but not all the plays that it's in the Bible. Jehovah picked the Israelites because they were the weakest tribe. He was trying to demonstrate that he's for real because here we are in this postmodern world with all this high tech and the idea that there's an actual higher spirit that might be actually pulling this all together and that we should relax because the big picture is handled on a level we can't understand. That's the whole Jehovahite picture. The Buddhite picture is comforting, but not like that. The Buddhite picture says, yeah, don't worry about the earth crashing, or we're going to do our best. Try to rise and meditate and everybody be cool. But, in the end, nobody really can handle that. And yeah, if you go with ecology, it's benevolent and all this. And the Christians are saying, no, man, everybody in it for themselves. Jehovah's got our back. But the right wing is more like, we just need to get rich and everybody else is crazy. I mean, that's the cynical right, okay? Maybe they believe but in other words, they're closer to the idea that you go with your own inside inspiration and you trust the higher wisdom of intuition, which you might say is the Holy Ghost, or it might be Jehovah. And then the whole experience of your body that says you gotta plant real food, man. You can't just vote for it, create a committee of suits and experts, and be a political party that demands equality and then taxes everybody that's trying to grow some food. And I used to be a lefty, if you want, but I'm never that way. Always kind of, yeah, let's go for the higher values, but you got to do it libertarian style, and that's what we're at right now. That's our only choice. If you're a progressive, you have two choices: work on something on the ground that's going to make sense, or just waste your time pointing fingers with TDS at things you can't do anything about. So it's coming down to the real, make some real connections. That's what I'm doing on the ground. Everybody everywhere can start doing that. I'm going to chart even though this sounds crazy, anything crazy is starting to be real.